अच्छा What do they five?
1, 2, 3, 5.
What do they? What do they five?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Oh.
10 नहीं What do they five is 7 10 तूने बोला 7 से 10 loser loser बेटा
Hi guys, welcome back to the next episode of the BM Crypto Academy podcast. I'm Asim, this is Moz, and today we're going to talk about the problem with fiat, what money is, and how Bitcoin is the solution.
Yeah, so before we get into the actual video, there's just a little brief summary of what we discussed in the last video and how we're going to connect it to this one. First of all, we basically told you guys about how the cryptocurrency world is right now in its nascent stages. So, right, getting into the market right now, it's kind of like you joining in when it's just starting out, right? So there's like huge potential for it to grow, and this technology is only going to grow more popular as more people start finding out about it and find out about the great things about the currency. That was the first thing that we sort of discussed yesterday in the last video, not yesterday. Anyways, point number two was that it's the next evolution in technology. You got blockchain technology coming up. You've got lots of different companies that are going towards it. You've got the development of Web3. That's something that's going hand in hand with cryptocurrency organizations. They're sort of leading this charge. So the natural evolution of technology is sticking to the cryptocurrency model. Number three, it's potentially going to be an asset like gold in the future. Number four, this currency, cryptocurrencies in general, have the potential to become the next global currency or the next form of currency that we envision, moving away from things like the dollar, the yen, etc., etc. And lastly, of course, there's money to be made in this market. Lots of people are throwing a lot of money around. But what's most important to our discussion today is the potential for cryptocurrencies to actually be
Become world currency.
yeah, a global currency in the future. Bitcoin, according to experts, is the currency that's talked about the most as the one that has the most potential to become a global currency. But before we get to that, what makes a global currency, or what makes a good currency? Like, what are the essential characteristics of it
Yeah.
that we need to understand?
That's a good question because when you're trying to understand how Bitcoin will become the global currency, you first need to understand what currencies are. And to understand what currencies are, you first need to know what money is. So basically, throughout the history of
I like that. Let's go into the deep histories. Yes.
yeah, so throughout human history, people have always found ways to exchange value between each other. That's
Yeah.
how societies, economies, and countries and nations have grown. And the more efficiently you can transfer value between the more efficiently you can transfer value between people, the faster your economies will grow. So, throughout history, what we did was we experimented with different forms of money to find the perfect thing that we could use to transfer the value that we create as
Yeah.
entrepreneurs, as people, as market participants. And throughout history, we figured out that there are certain characteristics that make any particular object a good form of money.
Yeah.
So basically, there are five things, and these five things have been tried and tested with market forces, and they have stood the test of time. That if an object or a thing has these characteristics, it can become a good form of money. Those characteristics are number one, it should be divisible, which means you can break this particular object down into smaller denominations. I'll give you an example with modern currencies, so you can like grasp the concept that if you have a note of 5,000 rupees or dollars, you can't buy an ice cream with that because an ice cream is a very low value item. So you can't just give the 5,000 note and get an ice cream. So you need to be able to break that $5,000 down into smaller denominations. So
A
you can
$100 note gets
$100
broken down
exactly.
to like a tenner, a fiver.
Yeah,
Like
so you can buy small things, large things. Basically, whatever
Yeah.
you're using as money should be able to be broken down into smaller denominations. That's the first thing. Secondly, the object that you're using as money should be recognizable. Basically, when you see something, you look at it, you can easily be able to tell that it has not been counterfeited. Why that's important will come down the line because you don't want counterfeiters to be able to fake money.
Yeah.
That's very intuitive. You understand why that's important. Number three is you should be able to take that money around with you. It should be easy to carry, it should be portable. Again, it's very intuitive. If you can't carry your money around, what good is it? Number fourth is that it should be able to stand test of time. It shouldn't be able to decompose in your pocket, or for example, if you're using
Are you
veg.
gonna say lemons again? Are you gonna say, I hate this. Every time he explains, he's like, it can't be lemons because lemons just sort of die.
Yeah. So if you're using any form of perishable goods that could potentially die, like lemons, that's not a great form of money, because if you have like 500,000 lemons in your house and they rot, you basically rotted your wealth rotted away. So whatever you're using as money should be able to stand the test of time. It should be durable. And lastly, the most important thing is that whatever you're using as money should be a scarce resource. It shouldn't be abundant in nature. You can't
Yeah.
use you can't use something as money which anyone can get very easily. Whatever you're using as money should be there should be a process that is very difficult to do. After which you increase the supply of money. We'll explain that as the video goes
Well,
through. But
so run me down like in the sense that down to particular ideas, right? So like you said that you were gonna go down the histories. I've got two currencies in my mind
okay,
that I want to know a little bit about and what the problems with those were because one, we've heard of gold, and gold has been used as a currency throughout history. You had gold coins, and then you had gold bars, and then you had people exchanging jewelry for valuable products. Gold is one of the oldest currencies that exists. And number two, certain tribes like in Africa, a lot of different tribes that were discovered that you were using glass
yeah, yeah,
pearls
yeah,
as a form of currency, and similar sort of pearls, etc., have been used as currency by a lot of like ancient civilizations, not just ancient civilizations, but older
yeah, yeah,
civilizations,
exactly.
and those both were forms of currency that
Mhm.
existed. What, did they not meet the five? Did they not meet the five? You're just gonna be killing mosquitoes throughout this, because
Sorry, continue.
yeah. So did they meet those five criteria or not?
They did. I'll explain the gold first, then I'll get to the beads. Gold fulfills all of those five things very well, apart from being portable, because gold is heavy. If any of you have ever held a brick of gold, you know that
Yeah,
it's
the
like a
brick of gold.
like a
Has y'all ever held a brick of gold?
like if you ever held like a nugget of gold, you know it's like quite a hefty thing to carry around with you. So
I haven't in my life, you bougie bastards. But okay, it's heavy.
gold is heavy, so it's very
Okay.
difficult to carry around. So imagine in a global scale, if one country is doing trade with another country and they have to settle their payments in gold, there has to be a massive container ship filled with tons of gold that has to be transported from one nation to the other, maybe through ports, maybe by an airport, with an entire security fleet with it so it doesn't get stolen. The logistics of getting gold from one participant in the market to another in a large enough market is very cumbersome.
Yeah.
So even though gold is it satisfies everything very perfectly, it needs to be in a very confined market space where gold doesn't have has to travel a lot. That's like foreshadowing of how the paper currency came to play, but that's a topic for a future.
Yeah.
Secondly, the glass beads. Just like gold, the glass beads were working very perfectly because the system was very confined. It was only limited to a few villages and tribes in West Africa.
Yeah.
So the problem with glass beads arose when European settlers came to Africa and those particular villages, and they saw that people were using these glass beads to do transactions. And those Europeans realized that these glass beads that we in Europe, which we can produce very cheaply, have so much value over here that they came up with a scheme that if we can make glass beads in Europe, bring them here, and secretly introduce them into the economy, we can kind of steal their efforts without them knowing it. Because if everyone thinks in Africa that glass beads are worth something,
Because they're really difficult to make, I
yeah, yeah,
assume.
because if you're in a village in West Africa, you can't like make glass beads in a factory. There aren't any factories over there. So having glass beads was a scarce resource, the fifth pillar. But when the European settlers came, when the Europeans, colonizers or whatever, they came in,
Yeah.
the scarcity aspect of those glass beads went away because the Europeans could make those glass beads by the boatloads because of their advanced industrial processes back home. So what happened was those Europeans by the boatloads brought these glass beads and slowly integrated them into the market and
Mhm.
started stealing the work, the resources, the time of the people in those African tribes. And over time, they were trying the counterfeiting. Well, aspect it also came in that Africans were like, we won't take these beads, but that beads. and we'll only use our beads. But generally, the system was now unstable.
Yeah.
So that emphasizes
Scarcity of
scarcity, the element of scarcity, the pillar of scarcity in money. For gold, it was the pillar of portability, and for glass beads, it was the pillar of scarcity that was broken.
we understand money
Yeah,
now. We understand what makes a good currency. We understand the problems with gold and glass beads. We solved that problem.
yeah,
We introduced paper currency,
exactly.
and that's the fiat model that we see today, which is that every country trades in some form of paper currency. You see that all around the world. But if we're saying that Bitcoin is going to be the next big thing,
Hmm.
it's going to have to replace the
Yeah.
model that we have right now. What's wrong with the model that we're working with?
Okay. The model that we're working with regarding the pillars of what makes a currency a good currency is perfect.
Yeah.
You can divide paper currency into infinitely small denominations. You can carry
Yeah.
it around. It doesn't rot. It is easily recognizable. And if everything holds true, it is also scarce. But that's the problem here. That the problem with fiat is that you have to trust the government and you have to trust the central banks that they will maintain the pillar of scarcity.
All
So the
right.
problem isn't that scarcity has been eliminated, it's that there needs to be an implicit belief that government and the banks are working for you and working for the system.
All right.
And
What does that mean? That sounds very,
it,
you know,
yeah, it basically means,
conspiracy like.
yeah, it does sound very conspiracy like, and honestly it's, and if you think about it, it's not really conspiracy, it makes logical sense. The governments and anyone who has the ability to make money will exploit that edge over the someone who does not. Because if you have the ability to print more money and buy more stuff, what's to stop you from doing it? Yes, there are regulations. Yes, there are laws, but that's the whole thing. Laws can be bent. You can make new legislation that allows you to print money. Quantitative easing, they call it. Basically, the governments are able to manipulate the supply of money, which fundamentally ruins the pillar of scarcity. And
You're getting a little complex here. They can violate the principle of scarcity. They can violate the supply, etc. What does this mean in real terms? What do governments do that's violating the principle of scarcity?
they print money. They print more money.
When do they print money?
They print money whenever they need to fund any project, because essentially, whenever you print money, you are taking the purchasing power from the people in the market and giving it to whoever holds the new bills that have been printed.
All right.
So the problem with fiat is that because the governments have the ability to print money, because the central banks have the ability to print money, they can steal your steal is a strong word, but it's true if you like technically think about it. They can steal your efforts, they can steal your hard work and time without you even knowing it. So that's the problem with fiat.
All right, so like intuitively, at least when I'm thinking about it, I'm saying there's if 10 products available, and then there's like $100 available.
Mm,
Those 10 products that's ideally would cost $10 each,
mm.
and you get like the $100. And now you've introduced an additional $900 into the market and turned it into $1,000. But the products that are available are still 10 for you to buy. Each product then becomes 100. Is
Yeah.
inflation linked the government's ability to print more and more money?
Yeah, inflation literally means to inflate and grow in size.
Yeah.
So when you inflate the money supply, the individual unit of currencies in within that money supply become less valuable.
So when things go expensive, is it because like like our businesses are doing bad, or is it because you've just got more
Yeah,
money?
you got more money, exactly. So if you think about it, if technology is improving, if our efficiency is improving, if industries are getting better, if globalization is happening, all these things, if they are making us better at producing stuff, why is stuff getting more expensive? It
Yeah,
should be
because
getting
that's
cheaper. So
exactly that's
yeah,
what bothers me.
so the only problem here is the money supply is being added into the system faster than value is being created, and that is basically the violation of the trust that people have put into the central banks that they won't do that. But as we can see around us in the global markets, in Pakistan, in the US, everywhere you see where inflation is sky high, that is an obvious sign of the governments breaking the trust that the people have put into them.
This year, 2022, has been recorded as one of the years with the highest rates of inflation
Yeah.
all over the world. All countries seemingly break records every day. The United Kingdom had a 40-year high for inflation. The
Mm.
United States had a high for inflation. Germany,
Mm.
interestingly enough, also had a high for inflation. Um, so like this seems to be a problem, but if those numbers are so high, the governments have simply been printing money. Why do people continue to trust these governments? Is it because there's no alternative?
Well, you can argue that psychologically we want someone to be managing the system and we don't want to think about it, but that's a whole different
So,
that's a whole different ballgame. Yeah, but fiat has been the closest thing we've come to having efficient money. So yeah, you're right. We didn't have a better option other than fiat up till now.
and that's
Oh!
where
The Bitcoin comes in,
Bitcoin steps in.
and we have so many mosquitoes over here. Anyways, continue.
Yeah, so that's where Bitcoin comes in. But before we get into that discussion, fiat's fundamental problem was that it violated the principle of scarcity. When we were talking about decent principles for what a strong currency is like, those are five principles: portability, divisibility, durability, recognizability, and
Scarcity.
scarcity.
Yeah.
And Bitcoin. Okay, let's just stop for a bit. Azane ho rahi hai. All right, so the legs have changed. No cut happened here. And we're back to where we were at the very start, right? So that's it. For currencies,
Hmm.
we've figured out five key characteristics that basically make a strong currency. So number one is portability. Number two is divisibility. Number three is durability. And number four is recognizability. Number five
Is
is scarcity.
scarcity.
And the problem with fiat currency is that it violates the principle of scarcity.
Exactly.
And people, if you can infinitely just keep printing more money, the inherent value of each individual,
Flatlines.
it just sort of goes away, right? And
Yeah.
then it's violated. That's
And
kind of
that's called hyperinflation, by the way, if you want to look into it yourself. When you print so much money that the individual note loses its value.
Zimbabwe has a $2 million note. I've heard or something. It's like a 3 million.
Yeah,
That's,
Germany was in hyperinflation during the. Anyways, sorry.
but that's Germany was in hyperinflation apparently. But yeah, those are five characteristics of strong currencies. In comes crashing through the wall. Please protect the wall. Crashing through the wall. Bitcoin. Bitcoin's the savior. Bitcoin maxis have been, if for lack of a better word, ejaculated at the thought of how incredible this new thing is, and crypto bros around the world have sort of gathered around it. What is Bitcoin, and does it satisfy like these five essential needs of a
Yeah.
currency? So portability.
Bitcoin is a digital form of money. So wherever there's the internet, there's you can access your Bitcoin. So it
Yeah.
is infinitely no, it can travel at the speed of light to wherever you want it to. And if there's an internet connection somewhere, Bitcoin's over there.
All right. So portability satisfied. Divisibility.
Divisibility again, since it's digital and you can break it down infinitely. You can a Satoshi is the smallest denomination of a Bitcoin that you can trade right now, and I think it's like one millionth or 1 trillionth of a Bitcoin.
All
So
right, so the decimal places can
yeah,
infinitely
the
just be.
decimal places can infinitely be increased.
All right, interesting. Durability.
As long as the internet exists, Bitcoin will, man. Like you can't erode away Bitcoin.
All right, sweet. So you got three qualities fulfilled. Recognizability.
The hash algorithm, which is basically used to store and record Bitcoin transactions, works only if you're using the proper code. So you can't just say like I have Bitcoin and then be like, oh, I can't show it to you. You'll ruin. No, no,
It
no.
has to be on the
It
ledger,
has to be on the ledger. It is recognizable because if it is on the ledger, it is genuine.
and everybody that's got bitcoins on the ledger, so like you can recognize. All right, sweet. Scarcity.
There's only going to be 21 million Bitcoin
Explain that.
ever. So basically, in 2009, when the white paper of Bitcoin was released, Satoshi Nakamoto, the person or the group of people who made Bitcoin, specified that there will only be 21 million Bitcoins ever made. And that hard cap on Bitcoin supply makes it immune to any form of supply manipulation.
All
So
right.
you can't print more Bitcoin. You can mine them, but that's just like extracting the Bitcoins that already exist. Mining, the process of mining will stop as soon as we hit the 21 million coin mark. And yeah, Bitcoin is infinitely scarce. Infinitely scarce. That's a wrong phrase.
Infinitely scarce.
Infinitely scarce is like oxymoron. Acha. Bitcoin is capped at 21 million, so you can't increase the supply.
So it deals with the problems that fiat has
Yeah,
essentially.
and since it's a trustless and permissionless system, everything has to be on the ledger and anyone can see what's going on, who made which transaction. There can't be financial
Underhandry,
underhandries,
underhandedness.
underhandries by financial intermediaries that can mess with your wealth.
And that's going to be my final question, right? So with fiat currency, we know that governments are somewhat responsible and in charge of ensuring that this thing that exists has some sort of value.
Yeah.
What ensures that Bitcoin has value when there is no like big institution that backs it?
That is a very deep question because Bitcoin is a network technology. A network technology is basically anything that relies on people joining the network.
All right,
Like,
yeah.
so,
So like the initial point of more people need to
yeah,
get
yeah.
on it. Yeah.
Money is basically anything that people believe is money. Okay? So, if we were to decide amongst ourselves that we're going to use leaves as currency, we have all the right to do so. But we can't scale leaves up to the global scale because of the five pillars you mentioned before. Since Bitcoin is able to fulfill the needs of those five pillars, the market naturally accumulates to using it rather than fiat. So when you say what makes it hold value, the network, the people, and the integrity of Bitcoin is the value behind it.
So like the end point is that people sort accept that we accept Bitcoin as valuable currency and associate, like, if I were to say Dave, I will sell for like half a
We
Bitcoin.
are never selling Dave.
But
Dave is priceless.
the idea is that you go in a supermarket and you've got like breads and milk and
Yeah,
everything
yeah,
there, and it's like denominations of Bitcoin that it's being
exactly.
sold at because everybody accepts that Bitcoin
Is the
is a current.
strongest currency. Yeah.
All right, sweet. So those are the problems with fiat. Uh, we've already told you what makes a decent currency, and Bitcoin sort of fulfills all those conditions. So people that are actually genuinely worried, and this is a sort of side topic as we end our discussion. People are genuinely worried if you go over on YouTube, if you go check out financial analysts. I've been reading this a lot. That a lot of people are terrified that the fiat model will fail,
Mm.
or that it's going to be the currencies will crash, entire economies will be destroyed because the
Mhm.
currency is going to crash. They've talked about how the fiat system needs to end. The U.S. The Fed is a villain, and it's been all over. And people are genuinely concerned that currency is going to be crashing. Bitcoin is just one of the many contenders that could actually be used as a replacement for fiat currency,
Yeah.
because we've also been hearing talks about not crypto assets, but digital currencies being developed by different governments.
Yes, CBDC, central bank digital currencies. They are like if any of you know what a shitcoin is, they are the ultimate form of shitcoins.
So is it just like translating the fiat system but into a digital world to sort of say, oh,
Yeah,
we fixed the
yeah,
problems?
it's bullshit. It's absolute. It's garbage. Okay, so whenever you're doing research on coins, you have a few metrics that you look at to determine if the coin's going to go up or down. And if you measure CBDCs against those benchmarks, it is absolute garbage. The only reason they're making it is so they can like control your wealth even more. But we'll get into that in a future video.
So those digital assets are the same as the currencies that exist right now. Trust Bitcoin. It's the only future.
Peace.